Hello there everyone, it's Carol from the Crafty Emporium. I'm going to continue on with the Country Diary Journal. I haven't been about for a few days, so I've been a bit delayed in getting this video done because I wasn't none too grand last week. So yeah, and then I got busy, and then some friends came, and then we went to the show at the weekend, and yeah, anyway, so here I am. A few of you have been asking me about the Country Diary book that I am using. It's one of the Country Diary books. There's many different types of Country Diary Edith Holden books about. This one's actually called The Country Woman's Journal, and it's a really nice book. But these are the pages that I've been showing you throughout the video, but I thought that I would just show you the book itself. So that's the actual book. So it's a Country Woman's Journal, and it's by Margaret Shaw. Okay, so that's that. Now then, on the last video I talked about collating all your pages together for your journal. Now, since I've had a few days off, I've had a bit of a time to sort of think about a couple of things, and there's an extra page that I'm going to add. Now, you don't have to do this, but it's what I'm going to be adding into my journal. And I've got this handmade paper that I'm going to include into mine because I had a thought about something that I wanted to do, because another book that I'm going to be using is the Sarah Midder I hope I've said her name correctly, In and Out of the Garden book, and I want to use one of the pages. Well, I'll be using a few pages, but I want to use one of the pages out of there with this particular idea in mind. So, and it requires the handmade paper. So I'm going to go through this bit first, and then I'm going to talk to you about the next part of the journal itself. Now, let me just clean my decks a little. What I'm actually going to do is I want to sort of fray the edge of the paper a little bit, because this handmade paper lends itself to do that. And as you can see, because it's been handmade, this is the raw edge of the paper, so it's got this sort of ripped kind of look about it, and I want to create that effect all the way around. And a great way of doing that is to use water and a brush. And if I just move that across a little so that you can see what it is that I'm doing. So what I've actually done is I've dunked my paintbrush in my water. It's only a fine paintbrush, and I've made sure that I've got all the air bubbles out by just pushing it against the base of the pot, so that this is now saturated in water. And then I'm just going to draw, paint stroke draw a line along the edge of the paper. Now, I did cut this roughly down to size, so I knew roughly what edge I was going to be talking about. And then once the paper is then soaked through, you can pull it away, because the wet water has gone through the paper. It makes it easier to pull away the fibres at the edge of the page, and it will give it that feathered kind of look. And can you see it's giving it that lovely feathered edge now? So I just need to do that on the other two sides. So again, I'm just going to paint along the edge here and make sure that the water is soaking in. Mulberry paper is another sort that you can do this with, and gives a great effect. Now, this paper came from one of my dear friends on my group, bless her. She went to Thailand to visit her son, and there's a paper shop there, and I hadn't realised this, but she bought loads and loads of paper, and then she sent some out as racks, and I was very fortunate that I received one of those. Wasn't I lucky? Look at that feathered edge. I love it. I love it, I do. I really love it. So I'm just going to do this last side. To give me the feathered edge along that one. I'm not doing this bottom edge here because that's the edge of the paper, so it's already naturally got a rough raw edge to it, and because of all the fibres that are in the paper, they then stick out, and it just adds that little bit of an extra effect. And I went with this colour as well because I thought it was quite earthy. So there we go. So I'm going to fold that in half. And what I want to do is I want to use this particular image, and so I'm just going to cut it out. But that's the image close up, and seeing as I thought it was Country Diary, which is based around gardens and flowers, I thought that was quite pretty. It says, "What was paradise but a garden, an orchard of trees and herbs, full of pleasure, and nothing there but delights." I thought that was quite lovely. So I'm going to cut this out, and I'm not measuring, I'm just cutting out the image, trying to get an evenish border all the way around. Well, I've done it a bit narrower on that side than that, so I need to cut that down. It's been a bit slapdash with my cutting there. Yep, so there we go with that. Now what I want to do is this is going to go on the next page, and I'll show you in a moment, and it's going to sit on the page in the middle, but I want to pull a window out of here. So this is the previous page, but you will be able to see this image through the window, and then when you lift it up, that will be stuck on the next page. Yep. So I want to I didn't bring my pencil across, so I'm going to have to just gauge roughly. Okay, so I don't want it to the edge of where the image is, I want it slightly smaller, so I'm going to do it there. Open it out, Carol, use your brain. And then I want to do it about there. Cross your fingers that this is going to work. And I want it to about here. Now it doesn't matter if I wet all of the inside area. And then I'm going to pull this away in the middle. Neaten up that corner a little bit if I can. Come on. Okay. So I've now got a bit of a window. So when I stick that on the page underneath, you see how it's just showing through. So I can see that I probably need to just do it a little bit more. I'll do that off camera, but I will take a little bit more off that, and I'll just show you where it's going to sit. So I decided I would slot it in there. So what will happen is I'm going to stick that on that page, and then that will close over. As I say, I'm going to take a bit more of this away, because then I thought what I could do is I could cut out, fussy cut out a bird and have a bird sat up here, maybe a bit of a plant down here, but I thought that that created a nice effect, having the window effect. So then when you pull that back as the page, this side is actually quite nice for writing on, but then you're left with this image here in the center. Okay, so that's the intention for that, and that's why I decided to add that extra page in there. Alright, but I'm not going to do that now, and I will take a little bit more of that off once I've finished filming. What I do want to talk to you about today is the next stage of the preparation for the journal itself. And if you remember, I showed you some of these in the previous video, or the one before that. Maybe it was the first one. So now we're on to tucks, pockets, belly bands. So we're on to that kind of thing. So you need to start to look through all your papers and your bits and pieces and work out what you're going to use for your tucks, your pockets, your belly bands. Now, the reason why we're doing this bit now is you need to make a little bit of a choice, because there are a couple of options. Before we attach our signature to our front cover, we need to decide if we're going to do any machine stitching. And there's a couple of ways in which you can do this. So let's just use this one as a for instance. So this is the pocket. I don't know if you remember me showing you this page, and I said that I was going to use this as a pocket. What I could do is I could sew this to my page. Now if I just get a page, in fact I'll tell you what, I'll take that out, and then I'm not dealing with the whole lot. So if I decide that I'm going to attach that to this page here, I can directly stitch this pocket to that page. But what will happen is when I turn it over, I will then have the stitching on this back side piece. Some people like that, some people don't. The other thing that you could do is you could sew just this paper around the three sides, so it's kind of faux stitching. So then when you can then stick this to this page with glue, and it looks as though you've stitched it to the page because of the sewing that you've done, but there's no stitching showing on the back. So if you want to sew your things to your pages, it's at this stage that you need to get it done, because if all of these were attached into our cover, it's very difficult to then start sewing on the pages themselves. So it's best to get this bit done next. Does that make sense? Give me a thumbs up if it does. No, can't see you. So those are the considerations that you now need to look at. You need to go through your books and pick out the bits and pieces that you want to have as your pockets or your tuck spots. Pockets are where you attach it around three sides so that it forms a pocket for you to put something in. Let's just say I was going to do this as a tuck spot. So a tuck spot would be attached around two sides, so then you can tuck something behind it. So it's a little bit like a pocket, but not quite, because it's only attached around two sides. Alright, so that's the difference between a tuck and a pocket. So for instance, this one is going to be a tuck because I'm going to attach it by putting glue around these two sides here, so then I can tuck something underneath it. This one is going to be attached around 1, 2, 3 sides, so therefore it will become a pocket, a long pocket. Alright, so once you've worked out your tucks and your pockets, I'll just pop that back in there. You then need to start to go through and decide where each of those tucks and pockets are going to go. So let me just use these 4 as the example, and I would then go through each of my pages. Now, because I've got a right angle at the top, I might be better off on a page that has got a straight edge rather than a page that has got ripped edges. All right, so I would probably end up putting that one there. So I need to decide, am I going to stitch it in place or am I just going to stick it in place? But for now, all I'm going to do is I'm just going to paper clip it so that it's in the place on the page that I want it to be on. All right, so next one, I'm going to start at the back this time and alternate between working out what you're doing from the front and then what you're doing from the back, because otherwise you end up putting loads of stuff at the front of the journal and you never end up then putting anything at the back, or you get to the point where you're like, oh God, I need to find some more, I haven't got any more to put in. So again, I'm going to put this on a straight one. So I actually think that looks quite nice on the graph paper. Show you just close up, and it goes well with this paper as well. So I'm going to just temporarily paper clip that one in place there. Now this one has got a long straight edge. This also wants a straight edge piece, so maybe that one could go there. So we'll paper clip you in place there, and then we'll do one nearer the front. We know what's going on that one. Maybe that could go down there. Okay, so now what I can do is I can start to look through the journal and I go, oh, yeah, that's pretty, yeah, I like that there, yeah, interesting, yeah, I've got things to put in there, oh, I've got pocket there, yeah, like it with that there, and you can start to see if it looks right for you. Okay, the joy is that you can then start to maneuver them about. One of the things that I would say be careful of is don't overdo it with the puckets and the tocks. I can't speak properly. Pockets and the tucks, because you can end up overpowering all the pages. Because these are quite highly patterned, these pages, you can end up overpowering them with too much pattern. So try not to do too much at this stage, because we want the decorative part really to be all the extra bits and pieces that we're going to be adding. So what I'm going to do with this one is, again, I'm going to follow the outline shape of this, and then I'm going to have that as a pocket on my page. And then these pages, which are the writing ones, with this one I'm going to make it into a belly band, and I'm going to end up folding that in. See if I've got that right. A bit more. I'm going to fold that edge in, and I'm going to fold that edge over there. Again, just make sure, because I want to make sure that this is roughly in the centre. So I'm going to fold that bit over there. Probably got that going a little bit. Straighten it up a little bit. Looked a little bit lopsided. I want to pull that top edge in a little. Okay, and then I'm going to glue down the bottom edge, because that's where the flower is, so I'm going to glue down there. Well, it helps if you open the glue, Carol. Oh, I'm not having a good day today, am I? Right, try again. Just going to glue along that bottom edge and then fold that over so that that sticks down at the bottom. And then I'm going to put glue along this edge here. And I'm going to put glue along this edge here. And then I'm going to fold that over. So those two edges are now stuck together. And this bottom edge is also glued shut. And I'm going to use, this is my belly band, and where's my little pouch gone? There we go. And I'm going to do a sliding butterfly, because I'm going to use this as the belly band, and I'm going to have that sliding up and down. And the way in which I did that, and I'm going to use this bit of scrap paper. Or is that bit big? Oh, that's bigger, look. Just trim that down a little. And then I'm going to tuck that behind and wrap it round. And wrap that around. I'm just going to trim off some of that excess because they're going to overlap. And I'm just going to glue those in place by putting glue on both sides and overlap them. I'm going to glue my butterfly onto there so that that band then means that that will then slide up and down the belly band. Okay, now I'm not going to glue the butterfly in place at the moment because I think I want to make this a little bit thinner. Just unglue it a minute. Because I don't want it that obvious. And I also want to ink all of these things up. Hey, come on, Carol. There we go. I think I might have done that a little bit too tight. Slacken it off a little. There we go, that's better. And I want to ink up my butterfly, but that will then sit on there. So then that butterfly will move up and down. Now the other thing that I want to do is I need to measure this, the length of it, because obviously at the moment it's too long. So let's say it's going to sit on that page. I can see that I need to cut it off at the top of that line there. And then that will be stuck on by placing glue here and here, and then that will stick onto there, so it then becomes a belly band to be able to tuck something underneath it. Now the other thing that you may have noticed is because of the way in which I've stuck it, this has also become a secret pocket at the top. So I could actually just cut a little tiny semicircle out here, a little thumb hole, so then I could put some hidden papers in there, so it's become a belly band pocket. Alright, and then that butterfly will sit on there so that it can slide up and down. Right, so when you're looking at your papers, don't just think that they've all got to be patterned. They can be the text pages as well, and it's a good way of using up the text pages. So my challenge to you for this one is to start to have a look at your book pages and start to make up your belly bands, your pockets and your tucks. And then the last one that I want to show you is the flip pocket. So I'm going to let me just see, I'm going to do a triangle. Which way around do I want it? So I'm just going to fold that corner up and I'm going to cut it out. I might need to trim some of that off because it might be too big. So again, choose a page. And let's say I'm going to do that as a flip pocket there, so I can see that this fits the page perfectly, so that's fine. But I could trim some off each of the two sides from the right angled corner, so then that becomes a flip there, because I will be adding glue on the back down this edge and down this edge, and that will be stuck on there, so it becomes a pocket but it also becomes a flip. Now, because it's got the written word on the inside here, I'm actually going to attach a piece of lined paper on the inside here so that I've got somewhere that I can write on there as well. And again, because it's got the written word, it means that I can come back later and I can decorate it up with some flowers or some butterflies to make it decorative. But again, I would need to look at this and decide if I'm going to stitch it in place or not. So make up your tucks, make up your pockets, make up your belly bands, make up your flips, and decide where they're going to go in your journal. But don't go for all completely fancy papers. You can use lined papers as well. Paper clip them in place so that you can get a rough idea of what they're going to look like as you start to flick through your journal, and decide if you're going to faux stitch them or to stitch them to the page. Okay? Hope that all made sense. So that's your next challenge. Enjoy, and I'll see you again soon. Bye for now.